Hello and welcome back to the No More Trauma podcast. If you're returning, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Tanya, certified yoga teacher, trauma-informed clinical yoga therapist, student and teacher, and wellness facilitator. My mission is to provide healing, mental health tips, and inspiration for living a trauma-free lifestyle. You can find this podcast on Apple, SoundCloud, and on YouTube. So, the purpose of the yoga therapy series is gathering medical diagnoses and challenges and applying a yogic perspective, wellness options, and inspiration for achieving a goal of healing and vitality. The information I offer on this podcast is based on my life, student, and teaching experience as a certified coach, yoga, and wellness professional. This does not substitute or replace any medical or holistic services you may or may not already be receiving. So, in today's session, we are working with a client within the LGBTQ plus community with challenges with repetitive trauma. And so I'll go over the client I'm working with a little bit more in depth. I'll talk about anything that the client may report. Uh, I'll talk about the Sankalpa, the intention, right? So the intention for this client when they show up to yoga therapy as to what they're wanting to work through, navigate with their intentions, their overall goal. And then I'll also go over the assessment, what I see when working with this client or may experience as working with this client. And lastly, we'll look at the treatment plan, the yoga therapy treatment plan. And so if you're ready, let's get started. All right. This this client's female to male transgender, and they're currently working already with a care team for some other challenges like anorexia, obsessive compulsive disorder, so OCD, anxiety, and depression. This client states that he has a history of neglect, abuse, and trauma. The client's care team wants him to feel comfortable in his body, his new body, and using tools such as meditation and somatic practices. And if, as you're already listening to this episode and you say, oh, I know someone who can maybe benefit, then feel free to share this episode with them. So 32-year-old female to male transgender with a history of repetitive trauma. So I'm already, looking at that, which makes sense. You know, uh, with maybe some of the obsessive compulsive disorder, but not only that, but already letting me know with this particular trauma, then depression and anxiety may be present. So I'm already starting to consider that based off of what I um, get from this client. So the client is working with a care team, as I mentioned already. And so this client is presenting as they show up to me. So depression, anxiety, and OCD. And so what I want to kind of dive into is I'm kind of jumping around here. So this is a series, and so I believe if you I wanted to say like I believe I don't have that episode up. So maybe I'll say what I was going to say for another time, but it already lets me know what type of episode because I believe I have yet to bring up that episode for the regular series of the No More Trauma podcast. So I'll say what I'll have to say. You say, Tanya, let's continue on. Okay. So the assessment. So due to the untreated repetitive trauma post-operation, the client may have difficulty connecting with their overall body, and the client is presenting a somatic constitution. And so and if you heard in previous episodes, we talk about the gunas, right? So there's the rajas or tamasic. So opposite of that raja, meaning maybe having a lot of energy, or maybe feeling alert and ready. Um, Excess of this may be a little temperamental, or hypervigilant. Then tamasic constitution, they're going to maybe lack this client may lack some of that energy. Excess may be just kind of lethargic, or just not wanting to move, or just feeling very depressed, very low. Um, Consumption of food may not be the best, maybe not be the opposite of the leafy greens, maybe a little bit of heavy on like the food consumption, right? So, and speaking of due to lack of support, but also due to improper diet. So I was just kind of speaking, and then I actually noticed that I actually typed that out. So Tomasic constitution, which can not only be due to lack of support, right? So somebody that's embodying this Tomasic energy, or this uh, vibration, may not have a supportive community around, right? And so again, the mood just gets kind of lower and lower and lower. Anywho, so the client lacks the ability to connect with his new mental and physical body, right? So, per the client's current treatment team, he wishes to obtain body awareness and connection with others, right? We are human beings, we are made to connect. I cannot say that enough. And especially when as humans, when we're going through major transitions, life transitions, maybe it be, and I'm just going to kind of rant here a bit, you know, moving to a new state, right? When we think about, because our body is our home, our mental space is our home. And when we think about our environment, um, externally, our external environment, we want to feel as though we belong. And so a part of that belonging is connecting with those around us. So in the workplace, maybe in our apartment community or residential community. Um, if we have spiritual or religious belief, maybe connecting with those like-minded individuals as well. It can really help reduce stress and anxiety, where this client is presenting with anxiety and depression, right? And so that lack of connecting can just kind of impact the overall being, which is the reason why this client is impacted with that somatic constitution. So, uh, continuing on. um, let's see. So this will be a great opportunity to work with the client to stimulate that vagus nerve and explore the kosha bodies. So those kosha bodies, the layers in the bodies, through compassion meditation. So I would highly suggest a reconnection with the um, body through the art of meditation. Okay, so let's dive into this um, uh, the intentions, the Sankalpa. Okay, so the duration, we're working with this client for a duration of about 6 sessions, unless, client suggests more. And so the gunas, right? We talk about tamas. That's a kind of the one of the first few things as a yoga therapist we like to assess, besides, Another clue is when we're working with the gunas is the posture, are the shoulders round over? Are the, client looking down? Um, tone of voice can also give us clues. Um, so those are some of the things we can look at to support with looking at the constitution of how the client is presenting themselves. So depression, anxiety, obsessive behavior, and obtrusive thoughts. Another thing is maybe like kind of like fidgeting too. If there's like fidgeting, or just having trouble to focus. Just a few things to kind of, be mindful of, that we're mindful of. So the goals for this client is to feel comfortable in the body and to increase a tolerance towards self and others, right? So, you know, kind of looking at in what ways this client can work once they start to get comfortable in their body, how they can slowly begin to move towards other people, other loving, kind people too, right? Just being mindful of that repetitive trauma. So, desires of exploration, meditation, and somatic body awareness. Okay. So, right away, I'll, consider referring the client to an Ayurvedic nutritionist. And alongside care with already in place. Okay, so to support the anorexia. So just kind of considering again a balanced diet, right? So just suggesting that to the client if that's something that they're open to. And then I may also suggest an LGBTQIA plus support group or meetups, right? Connecting with individuals who also may share those same struggles, right? Getting, obtaining or transitioning into a new body or a new environment. And so, how can we, maybe build healthy relationships, friendships, and connection within that community? And this sense of social belonging, right? Because when we don't feel like we belong in our community, sometimes we feel like we don't belong in our mind and our body. And so it just increases all of this rumination, possibly, with OCD. But these are some things that can be supportive. Another area of focus is that heart chakra. Okay, so that's that heart chakra, the color green, to support depression in the tamasic energy. Okay, so I choose this area of chakra bodies because this can stimulate self-compassion and also support in the meditation, um, compassion for self. It's going to raise that self-esteem, hopefully, you know. And but just stimulating that space, um, increasing that hope for belonging, hope for connection, and once that manifests, maybe a sense of fullness in the heart. Okay, maybe not an overnight experience, but of course over this course of six sessions. And so for any of my listeners that may be or may not um, be familiar with hand mudras. So hand mudras are positions that we do with our hands. And so in meditation, I would suggest taking a hand mudra. And so the hand mudra in particular that I would suggest for this client would be the, and I'll spell it out for anyone who's listening. Of course, you can see everything in the show notes. But this is the Vajrapradama hand mudra. And this helps to build self-confidence, discernment, and inner strength. And so we would work with this hand mudra during our meditation. Okay. And the next thing within this treatment plan is actual movement, right? And we'll work through somatic movement, focusing on the nervous system, right? And to ensure, and I choose the somatic practice just because there is a repetitive trauma that this client has experienced. And maybe the ability just to dive a little deeper, but at a slow pace over time, making sure that not rushing into this practice because again, this client uh, has yet to feel safe in their body or fully connected. So starting with the meditation, that may be it could be like a slow process, right? And it may be challenging for this client to feel fully connected. And so just kind of moving slow over time. And so maybe in the fifth and sixth session, we begin to invite in some movement. Okay. And I would ensure vulnerabilities and to gather consent for a body scan through body scan meditation to discover any Vilkapa. So that's Vikalpa. So, and that's anything related to the thoughts, beliefs, or attachments of a certain area or chakra body, right? So any resistance. And so if the client feels accessible, the client is ready to go ahead and start practicing and supporting malasana or a yogi squat or resting in Ardha because excuse me, Bakasana. Okay. And so, and this could be, with yoga blocks or a blanket. And this may be supportive for the client to maybe feel the extrospection of feeling the body on touching the blocks, maybe feeling safe, right? Because these areas working with all these are also stimulating that root area for security and stability. And maybe the client may want to feel supported against something instead of this, maybe this sensation of of not belonging, right? Where the body feels almost like dangling. So that can be supportive. As these sessions continue, and if progress is made where the client wishes to explore more, right, or reaching, wanting to go out a little bit more of that tolerance, we can try that same pose without any support or any dukkha. Tanya, what's dukkha? So dukkha is going to be that suffering. So in between these sessions and, you know, maybe even after this somatic practice, we'll open the floor or excuse me, the studio or room for discussion. And the discussion with the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay. I think it's best to, where do we reflect? And we reflect on ahimsa, on ahimsa, excuse me. And that's spelled Ahimsa and worthiness. So ahimsa is that nonviolence. So nonviolence against self, right? This client has experienced repetitive trauma. And so we want to talk about worthiness, self-esteem. We've made this um, very big transition. And so uh, we want to look at the self-esteem, you know, how has it improved over time? It may be going back just a bit and, seeing where it was. And so this is something where in the Swadhyaya, the student, the client can reflect, maybe through journaling or just open discussion. So again, we're doing all of these things to work up to the client's Sankalpa, their goal, their intentions of yoga therapy to feel comfortable in their body and increase tolerance towards self and others. And so throughout these sessions, I am coming back to ask the client, can you tell me, have there been any improvements? Have you been able to connect and, meet anyone within your community? How good do you start to feel in your body? And are you noticing, um, you know, opposite mood? Is the mood improving, right? Do you still feel depressed or anxious? Or when have you felt less anxious? And are we moving to a place of courage, bravery, um, uh, grace, and compassion to self? And are we moving to a place where we're starting to feel more rajasic? So, or excuse me, maybe more just sattva, balance. And so the client's homework maybe, during these sessions more so after the client decides that 6 sessions are enough, or if they, more, however, that is, but to continue practicing self-compassion meditation, continue working with that hand mudra for 20 minutes a day and just journaling anything that may come up, right? Any newfound information, right? And how has, the yoga therapy help improve their mood? So that is it for this session, working with this client. I would love to hear if there's any questions that you may have. Feel free, you can add anything in the comments. You can email me at az.nomoretrauma uh, at gmail.com. You can visit my website at nomoretraumayoga.com. If any of this felt, like it resonated, or you just had questions, or you want to work with me, well, you can click the link below. I'll include the link where you can actually book a session and work with me through yoga therapy. You have more questions, you want to start the intake, you can click the link below where we can start to work together through your journey. And if you feel like we are a good fit just by listening to this, I would love to hear from you. Well, I thank you again for listening. I look forward to seeing you back. I am wishing you all the beautiful energy throughout the rest of your day. Remember to live abundantly, love your authenticity, and radiate organic happiness. But most importantly, live a life of no more trauma. Be well.